I mean, I would guess to say there are probably over 20 states right now that are in various stages of declaring independence and sovereignty to resist this Leviathan that's in Washington, D.C. So that's the first thing. And then the other thing, of course, is what the founders said in the Second Amendment, the right of the people to keep and bear arms. And that was not for the purpose of duck hunting or target shooting. That was for the purpose of protecting ourselves against the totalitarian tendencies of our own central government.
Because they had been through a tyranny.
Absolutely. They had lived it. They'd experienced it. They knew that the American people were not properly armed and prepared to defend themselves, that they would not maintain freedom very long. As I see it, Alex, those are the two major defenses that we have left at this point in time in our history. And I think we need to start focusing on our state governments, our governors' races, our
Instead of getting 60% turnout for a presidential election, how about 60% locally? And this is do or die. And I want to talk more about solutions with you and then try to jam in a few calls with Chuck Baldwin today. But Chuck, how do you see the globalists countering all of this? Because the pendulum is clearly swinging back. There's a huge political realignment. The system even admits. Did you read the Financial Times of London where Robert Shapiro told Obama, you need an Oklahoma City or a 9/11 so that you can look like a powerful leader? I'm really concerned, Chuck, about them staging crises.
I am too. And Don McElvaney, I was with him in Denver just this past weekend. We had a great conference out there with some real terrific patriots. And he talked about that very thing as well. He's concerned that there could be some kind of a false flag terrorist attack of some sort between now and the elections. Yeah, I think what they're going to try to do is what they've done, and that is to try to demonize people like us, like the Mayak Report and these other things, and they're going to go to their stooges there in Montgomery at the SLP and try to categorize us as nuts and so forth. But the fact of the matter is, I do believe that the pendulum is swinging toward state sovereignty, state independence, especially in some states. Not all the states, of course. Some of the states are too far gone. But the states along in the Southwest and Oklahoma and even in Texas where you are, though I know you got a big battle there with the big cities, the big city governments that you're fighting. But you go to Montana, Wyoming, Idaho, the Dakotas. You go down to Utah. I mean, there's even Tennessee, South Carolina, New Hampshire, Vermont. There's a lot of states around the country that are really, really beginning to see increased activity among their people for the freedom fight. And I really think it's going to continue. And I'm not pessimistic at all, Alex. I do believe that we can win this thing.
Well, I agree with you. And, for those that just tuned in, we're not joking about this. This is so hardcore when you've studied the facts and what the feds even admit they're doing. And they've already stolen so much money and done so many illegal things. They're not backing off. People need to understand, just like other countries have fallen to tyranny, it's happening here. And everybody needs to hit their knees and pray to God to also, give them discernment. And people need to realize all of you are leaders in this fight. Whatever you can do now to spread the word that what's happening in Washington is illegal and the solution is at the states and that the globalists are going to pull out every dirty trick they can. I had a caller earlier that trains law enforcement in Texas, and he said what you had just said. In fact, it's incredible. He said that they're training at the fusion centers and getting the hardcore killers from Iraq and selecting, kind of the lunatics that have been mentally, broken down by 3, 4, 5 tours, and that they are forging them as pretty much a school of America's takeover operation, secret police, torture, everything here in the United States. And he wanted me to ask you about that and School of America's.
Well, I've heard these things, and I certainly do not discount them. And in fact, Joel Skousen, in his most recent newsletter, he mentions that as well. And Joel, as you know, is as well researched as any man in America. I think that is going on. But again, I want to focus on what you just said, and that is the answer is a resurrection, a revival, a resurgence of state independence and sovereignty. The founders were so wise. Whenever the Constitution was created in 1787, the states did not surrender their sovereignty. They still maintained their independence. And I think that at the end of the day, Alex, it is going to be the state governments, the governors and the leaders and the people of those states. They're going to stand up and they're going to put this New World Order in their place. And I tell you, I do think that they're worried about that, and that means that we are on the right track.
God bless you. Stay there. Chuck Baldwin's our guest. We'll give you his website when we come back. Here, Chuck Baldwin, you've got the floor in the last 5 minutes. ChuckBaldwinLive.com. You've got your Top Secret America, the rest of the story article out that's excellent. I'm glad you reminded me about Joel Skousen. Of course, Cleon Skousen, his uncle, wrote The Naked Communist, or was it The Naked Capitalist? I forget, exposing the whole banker takeover. And he's a great guy. I'm going to get him on about his intel about using the troops in Iraq domestically. But that's now all admitted. But in closing, Obama is dropping like a rock. The globalists are cornered rats. They're not invincible, but so many Christian churches have been taught that it's the end of the world, so we should just lay down and go along with Romans 13. As a pastor, what's your view on that?
Man, you just hit my hot button, Alex. I tell you what, we would not be in the shape we're in today if the pastors in America had not just laid down on the job. Some of it's the 501c3 tax-exempt status. Some of it is just plain old-fashioned laziness. Some of it is ignorance. But whatever the reason, they have used that Romans 13 mantra for so long to sedate the churches of this country and to cause them to be lethargic, and they're using it against us. And I'm sure that for some of them it's not intentional, but boy, that result has been, for the most part, the Church of the Lord Jesus has been totally ineffective in standing against the forces of evil in this country. And I don't see a lot of turnaround on the horizon in that regard either. And that's why I think that God is raising up people like Alex Jones and the Ron Paul Revolution and Campaign for Liberty and a lot of these other groups that are out there that are standing against the New World Order, and they're standing for the things that are right. If the churches and the preachers had been doing it all along, we wouldn't be in this shape. But they're not doing it for the most part. And that's why I've got a lot of people that watch me online, Alex, quite frankly. We live stream our Sunday morning services every Sunday, and we got people that watch us because they can't find a church in their hometown that they can go to and get the truth. So, whatever the reason, you're right. The pastors have just not been doing the job. And, if the colonial preachers in America at the founding era had have acted and believed like the churches and the pastors are doing today, America would not exist. We would be a crown colony of England today with no Bill of Rights and very little freedom.
They led the rebellion against King George III.
Absolutely. Without that, what they called the Black Regiment, that group of patriot clergymen leading the way and preaching the sermons and giving them the inspiration and the information that they needed to wage that fight for independence. If they had not done that, there is no question that the Revolutionary War would have never taken place.
In fact, some of the first people killed at the start of the war were prominent pastors.
Well, let's remember that the shot heard around the world there at Concord and Lexington. Those shots were fired by Christian men of one congregation. The church at Lexington, the pastor's name was Jonas Clark. They were the militiamen. They were the ones that came to the defense at Concord and Lexington, first at Lexington and then at Concord Bridge, of course, and others came to their assistance as the battle grew. But the first men, the first ones that stood up there at Lexington Green against the Crown's forces that had come to arrest John Hancock and Sam Adams and take the guns was that pastor and his congregation.
Beautifully put, ChuckBaldwinLive.com. We look forward to talking to you again, sir, and we appreciate you joining us and all the great work you do. That column's up there, Top Secret America, the rest of the story. We'll get that posted over at Infowars.com. We'll talk to you soon, Pastor.
Thank you, Alex.
Godspeed. Great job, Cruz. Stay with us.